Hey everyone, I'm Dalliday, and welcome to another edition of Hometown PTBO. And very pleased to be joined by Kerry Huffman here today, who was born and raised right here in Peterborough. Kerry, how you doing? Thanks for joining us.
I'm doing great. Good to be here, Pete. Appreciate it.
Listen, congratulations right off the hop. You were recently inducted into the Peterborough and District Sports Hall of Fame. And I'm not too sure. I'm happy to say, I don't know why it took so long. Not up to me, obviously, but well overdue. But I know it was a big deal for you.
Yeah, it's. I'm pretty proud to say that I came from Peterborough, and obviously the sports town that it is, and the people that have come out of that city and who are there. It's a pretty special place, and to be honored and to be part of it. It's something when you're younger you don't think about too much, but as we get older and you see your family members starting to get older, it's always
Yeah.
nice to kind of have something like that and be recognized a little bit.
I know they ask this a lot. When people, win the Stanley Cup or get inducted into a Hall of Fame, like what's the first thing you think of, or the people that you think of? Had to take you back, did it, to the days up at the North Crest and the Kinsman and such?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, you think your family and the people who are really close to you and all the sacrifices they made, obviously along the way, and then right away I started to think about all the great friendships and all the memories that I had, not only playing sports in Peterborough, but growing up there and the time and the people that I obviously got to know and are still really close with. It's an amazing place, and it's still nice to keep in contact with everybody. But first and foremost, you think about those great times with your friends and your family.
Who were some of the other influences? You're lucky, very lucky to be in an age group where, I mean, you guys were very strong. You had some great players. And we'll talk about some of those guys, but you also had some really good coaches coming up through the ranks as well. And I know you can't name them all, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I know there's always a couple names that seem to come up all the time when I speak to former players like yourself.
Yeah, it's funny. You think back, and I had so many great coaches, and you're right. I'm going to miss somebody if I start naming a
Yeah,
bunch, but all the way back to my Adam hockey days with the late Ab Allen, who was quite a character and a great old time coach for us kids. And
yeah, and
then
that's one of the names that comes up a lot for sure. Yeah,
yeah, that, and even Paul Bedford. All the way through to Terry Gobert was a huge influence on me. I think Terry was really instrumental in terms of kind of switching me from a forward to a defenseman
mm,
and thinking that I'd be a good fit there and encouraging me through that process and even just the way Terry was and obviously my brother-in-law Mike, who played for the Petes, they played together. Mike Postvad, those guys were big brothers, and obviously we had Pete's around the house quite a bit with
yeah.
Pete's, not pizza. Pete's around the house quite a bit with my mom and dad were billets quite often, and getting to know some of those guys when I was a really young kid. They were all really influential on how I was.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, I knew the connection with Mike Posavad, who was, I think, captain of the Petes for like multiple years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Posey, who I see at Home Depot sometimes still, but who are some of the guys that your parents billeted? I didn't know they were billets back in the day.
Well, Graham Bonner was there
Oh
for a
wow,
while, and,
yeah.
and Terry Carpenter, who I ended up playing with in Philadelphia
Oh
with
yeah,
the Flyers. So it
yeah.
was it was kind of neat. Terry Karch was a couple of years ahead of me, and they were pretty influential. But
Sure.
just with my brother-in-law, at the time he was dating my sister, he was around the house quite a bit,
Yeah.
and guys like Chris King and Kay Whitmore and all those guys from that era were all kind of around, and it was great. Obviously, I feel like there's a little piece of every one of those guys that kind of made up who I became. So
Yeah.
it was a great experience. Plus, my brother-in-law Mike, he billeted with Steve Eiserman, so that was pretty special to get to know Steve when he was that age and watch him and what he was about to become. It was a pretty special time.
Some pretty good company there. So we'll fast forward a little bit, and you had a great opportunity to go to Guelph. I'm sure you would have loved to put on the maroon and white as a Pete, but sometimes it's best just to get out of town a little bit. Especially, I've always thought, especially for a defenseman, it's just a little bit more pressure. I don't know why, but I think it's always great that you get experience something else, and you did do that, and you did it with another Peterborough guy as well, and a big Memorial Cup experience for you guys with Brian Hayton and I think Jacques Martin, another Peterborough connection there.
Yeah, and don't forget the late Steve Chason
Oh,
was a
Chase,
big
yeah,
part of that
wow,
too.
yeah,
Yeah, it was
absolutely,
obviously yeah. I grew up. It was a dream. I wanted to play for the Petes, and when that didn't work out, Guelph picked me, and I already had kind of a good foot in the door, knowing Jacques pretty well. Jacques Martin
yeah.
was the coach, and Steve Chason already being there, and Brian Hayton, and we went and just had a great year right from the get go. Everything seemed to roll fine, work really well, and I think we were fortunate to, when we got into the finals, that the Petes got beat out by a tough Belleville's Bulls team, and
Yep.
I think we caught them a little bit tired. We were fortunate to get onto the Memorial Cup and win it. So it was a great life changing experience for sure.
Then after that, of course, you end up being a couple years later involved in one of the biggest trades in NHL history. And I know I'm sure you get sick of being asked about this, but you go from Philadelphia to Quebec in that big Lindros trade, and you brought a former Peterborough Pete with you, and Mike Ricci. You guys headed there. How often does that come up? That conversation? A lot.
Yeah, it's funny. I think people will all run into them in the street. I still live just outside of the Philadelphia area,
Yeah.
north of Philadelphia, and everybody, every once in a while they'll say, "Oh, Huff was in the Lindros trade," and I tell them, "Yeah, there might have been one or two more guys in that trade besides me, but
Yeah.
it's something that it's pretty fun to think back on and be part of, and it's a great experience. I mean, obviously, my years in Philly, I loved. I still love the area, and getting to go to Quebec and see that environment, and with that young team and a really good group, it was a great experience.
So you made your way, I mean, other stops as well. Ottawa played there with the Senators. Is there somebody that you did play with that sticks out that's just like, can't believe I had a chance to play with this particular guy?
Well, there's a
I'm sure there's a
few. I
few.
mean,
Yeah.
obviously early on in Philly, I got to play with those great Flyer teams with Dave Poulin and Brian Prop and Tim Kerr and Rick Tocchet and all those guys, and then getting to go to Quebec and play with Joe Sakic and Matt Sundin. I mean, I've played with some real good players, and then in
Yeah.
Ottawa with Alexei Yashin and those guys. And I'm sure I'm missing some great players, but yeah, I was really fortunate to play with some really good guys along the way. Good
Yeah.
people too, just awesome guys.
Yeah, yeah, you've had a little luck, but you got to make your own luck sometimes too, and you've deserved all those opportunities. Right now, I guess as we tape this, anyhow, temporarily out of the game, you kind of were on the wrong end of some changes in Pittsburgh after Kyle Dubas arrived in Pittsburgh. But what's the future looking like for you? What are you going to do here with the next little bit? Hockey obviously still the goal to get back in the game, or what's up?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to take a little bit of time here. It's been I've been going pretty good here for the last 8 or 9 years between
Yeah.
coaching and scouting, and been on the road a little bit. So I'm going to take a little bit of time, but I've really enjoyed, especially the last 2 years, the scouting piece to it. It's probably something I'll continue to do, and I've heard from a couple of teams already. So we'll see where it leads. But I've been really fortunate that I'm 55 years old, still working in the game, and the game's still really good to me. So I'm blessed that I've had the experiences I've had, and hopefully
Yeah.
there's a few more before it's all said and done.
All right. Well, again, congratulations on being inducted into the Peterborough District Sports Hall of Fame. You're in some really good company. You know that. I don't have to tell you that, but to be joined by some of the people that are on that wall and in that Hall of Fame is incredible. So, congrats on that.
Thanks very much, Pete. Love your work. Keep it up.
All right, that's Kerry Huffman, everyone, and we appreciate your time and thanks for watching, everyone. This edition of Hometown PTBO. Thank you for watching Hometown PTBO, brought to you by the Pyle Group, CIBC Wood Gundy.